This is my studio office. Looks pretty clean and spacious, right? No, it's not. It's a royal shit show in here, and I'm fucking sick of it. So we're fixing it today. The reason being is that I have so many unused computers just lying around, some of which I built in the last month, others the last 2 years. I have way too many systems just sitting here taking up space, and I'm over it. I'm absolutely over it. I'm gonna fix it today. These computers, they're like mold, you know? It starts off with a little spot, and if you don't treat it, it just keeps growing and spreading until you have a serious problem on your hands. And that's what I'm dealing with today. I mean, just look at this. Look at. Some of these systems are fully built, some of them are partially built, but there's one, there's another one. We got a couple over here. Actually, those are fine, but this one, there's one right there. Got a bunch of, you know, actually, geez, like what the heck? They're just everywhere. They're freaking everywhere. I don't even want to know how many systems I have to tear down today, but it is what it is. I got to bite the bullet at some point. So let's just round them up. Let's just round them up and see how many we have. 17 computers. I thought maybe I'd have like 10, maybe 12 at the most, but 17? You freaking kidding me? Okay, calm down, Kyle. It's gonna be fine. Like I said before, a lot of these systems are only partially built, so they may only have like a motherboard, AIO, maybe a couple drives and stuff. So that should cut down on the time it takes to tear those systems down. But I just realized that I don't have a lot of the retail packaging for a lot of these components, and PC parts are really difficult to store when you don't have boxes for them. So it's probably gonna be a nightmare organizing everything, but I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. Another thing is that even if I tear all these down, I'm still left with 17 PC cases that obviously take up more space than any other PC component. And I'm not exactly sure what to do with all of them. Some of them I'll keep because they're still good and perfectly fine, you know, in good condition. Others are pretty beat up and just like garbage cases anyway. Like this is, where did I even get this Dell from? Like what the hell? So I'm either gonna give these away like for free on Craigslist or I might donate them. I haven't figured it out yet. Despite my concerns, if there's two main things I'm excited about, it's that I'll finally be doing some long overdue organization to make the space feel nice and tidy. And I'm also kind of excited to see what hardware I'm gonna be harvesting from all these systems. I'm not 100% sure what I'll find, but it'll be nice to get a lot of these parts back on the shelves so that they're accessible anytime I need them, rather than being tied up in some random case that's strewn about my studio. I also wish I had more things to say right now so I could continue procrastinating this awful task, but I do not. So let's just get this over with.
Before we continue, special thanks to Keeps for sponsoring this video. Keeps offers the best solution for retaining as much of your hair as possible, so it's no surprise that they are the leading name in hair loss prevention for men. They also have a great business model. You can meet with the doctor online for complete discretion and have products delivered right to your doorstep every 3 months. Keeps also offers generic versions of the only 2 FDA-approved hair loss products out there, so the product you're getting is safe, effective, and affordable. Data shows that 2 out of 3 men experience some form of hair loss by the time they're 35, but acting now and getting ahead of the issue is the best line of defense. Not to mention, it can take up to 6 months to see results. The good news is that Keeps actually works, and their products have already helped millions of guys from going bald. So head to keeps.com/bitwit or click the description link to receive 50% off your first order. Take full control of your hair loss and try Keeps today.
All right, 5 hours later, and I have deconstructed all of the systems, and I've laid out all the parts that I pulled right out here on the Mega Desk. And we're gonna go through all of them briefly, very quickly, just to give you guys an idea of everything that I've acquired from this little excavation. But before that, I want to let you guys know that I actually sprained my ankle at a concert shortly after taking apart all these PCs, and so you'll please forgive me that I'm kind of walking around like a day walker for the rest of this video. But anyway, I'm totally fine. Everything's cool. Let me just sit down in this chair. Also, before we make our rounds with the parts, I want to quickly point out that there were 2 systems that I did not take apart. This guy is just a super old build. I can't even remember what the CPU is in here, but I used this for my GTX 1650 video, where I just bought this used on Craigslist or somewhere. It didn't come with a discrete GPU, so I slotted the 1650 in there and showed what it could do in order to sort of revive an ancient system if you wanted to use it for some light gaming. Pretty much the only case that I could really make at the time for the GTX 1650, but that was a fun video. I've since removed the 1650, as you can see, but the rest of the parts are just kind of too old to really even be used for anything useful, so I'm just leaving it intact. I'll probably either donate this to Goodwill or whoever, you know, whatever I can do to get rid of it. I don't really have any use for it anymore. And the other system I left intact is this NZXT build rig that they sent me several months ago. I put it together, in a video, and I believe it has a Ryzen 5 5600X and an RTX 3060 Ti. I didn't disassemble this because I might give it to my friend who's having serious issues with his PC. I might swap out a few components here and there to fit his needs, but I figured that would be a good solution for him. And let's just go on. Let's just take a look at all these. I'm wheeling around on my chair right now. But here are the cases, most of the cases, boom, right there. You can see they're taking up a lot of space, and I don't really have a whole lot of room left. I mean, I could technically put some of them, stack them on top of the cases that are already here, but it's really high already. It's just making me nervous the higher it goes. If there's like an earthquake or something like that, it just gets more and more unstable the higher I build it. So I might put some of these cases in there in the kitchenette area, or maybe try to give them away just, you know, for free or whatever online. As far as our CPUs go, we didn't pull a whole lot of CPUs, but we got some good stuff in here. We have a Intel 7820X, that 8-core CPU. I pulled this from an X299 build that I hadn't touched in like, must have been 3 or 4 years at least. So it's kind of cool to have that back, even though it's not my favorite chip that Intel's ever made for various reasons. We have an Intel Core i7 6700K. There's a Core i5 7600K and a Core i3 10105F. Those are fun. I definitely pulled a lot more AMD CPUs than I did Intel. On the bottom end, we have an Athlon 3000G APU. We had a Ryzen 5 3600, Ryzen 9 3900 XT, 2 Ryzen 9 3950Xs, that's pretty sweet, and then a current gen Ryzen 9 5900X. So really stoked to get all these back for testing, future builds. These 3 CPUs in particular, I'm pretty stoked about. Obviously there's not 15 CPUs here, even though we deconstructed 15 PCs, because like I mentioned, a lot of these systems were partially built, didn't have CPUs in them, or GPUs, memory sticks, things like that. But that being said, I did get quite a bit of memory back as well. We've got just a nice assortment of DDR4 mostly. I think it is all DDR4 except this 16 gig, or no, I think this is an 8 gig kit, Corsair Vengeance DDR3 that was originally in the very first PC that I ever put together myself way back in the day, almost like 10 years ago. Yeah, these are 4 gig DIMMs, 4 gig modules, so I only had 8 gigs in my system way back when, but very nostalgic. Actually, a lot of these parts just kind of, they all tell a story in one way or another, so this video is definitely more of a trip down memory lane than I anticipated, which is pretty cool. We got drives for days, WD Black 2 terabytes. I think this was the nicest hard drive that I got. Yeah, there's some other low-end ones there, but I haven't used, man, I used to use a WD Black in almost every single build that I would put together on the channel years ago, and I can't remember the last time I actually put a mechanical hard drive in a system. I should do that. I should build a server or something. Anyway, a lot of SSDs, a lot of M.2 SSDs. I believe this is the only one that's actually SATA Rev 3, 6 gigabit per second, just in an M.2 form factor. The rest are NVMe. These 2 being PCIe Gen 3, and the rest are Gen 4. And then there's some 2.5-inch SSDs over here, nothing too fancy. This is actually from my very first build as well, the Vertex 4, 128 gig SSD. I paid a pretty penny for this years ago. Can't remember exactly how much, but nowadays 128 gig SSDs can be bought for next to nothing. Power supplies, I pulled a lot of power supplies, 14 units to be exact. Damn! Look at all those freaking cables, good lord. I believe this and motherboards, I pulled the most PSUs and motherboards compared to any other component from this excavation. So yeah, a lot of PSUs. From the low end, we've got 430 watts. We have, you know, regular regular ATX, SFX units, and then on the high end, we go up to 850 watts. I was hoping for like maybe 1,000 watt, like a beefy boy. That's okay. Still got a few 850 watt units here, lots of 750s, and then it kind of just trails down. These are going to be kind of a pain to put away in storage just because of all the cables. I'll have to get, you know, the zip ties and Velcro straps out to make sure that they're all nice and tidy and compact as possible so that they don't take up too much space. The good thing is that they're all working, at least last I checked, so that gives me a lot of opportunity to blow up more PSUs in the future. I'm just kidding, let's hope not. Graphics cards, yay graphics cards. We've got some super old GPUs, some super new GPUs, and everything in between. On the low end is a Zotac GT710, which I believe only has like 1 gig of VRAM, and it's using DDR3 memory. Ugh, I feel ashamed just to touch it. And then on the high end over here, we have a Founders Edition RTX 3080 Ti. I kind of forgot that this was in a build, so really happy to get that back. It's really nice to have the Founders Edition cards and the reference cards from AMD for testing, especially because they're straight from the manufacturers themselves, and they kind of provide a nice baseline of performance before the chips get in the hands of admin board partners and they tweak the crap out of it. We also have some current gen GPUs from AMD as a reference, RX 6800 XT. This is also an RX 6800 XT, but from Asus, one of their tough gaming cards. And then the rest are older generation trading cards except for this one. This is an RX 6500 XT. And this is also kind of a sentimental card for me. This was in my personal build way back in the day. GTX 970, it's an EVGA. It's really clean. How did I keep it so clean? It looks brand new. So those are the GPUs. Moving on to motherboards. I pulled a lot of motherboards. Like I said, there's 14 of these, same number as the PSUs that I pulled. A nice assortment of Intel and AMD. I think I have more AMD than Intel, just because I built more AMD PCs in the last 2 to 3 years than I have Intel. But you know, that's starting to switch a little bit. Intel's really made a comeback in recent times, and I'm excited about that. It's more competition stuff, keeping AMD on their toes. But yeah, a lot of cool boards here, all still perfectly functional as far as I know. This is probably the lousiest board that I have. This is an AM1B ITX board from ASRock, and you can see that the CPU is still in here. It's actually an APU. I think it's an AMD Sempron 3800 series that I use for like the crappiest PC. You guys told me to build the crappiest PC I possibly could, and that was this board, an APU. It did not disappoint. And we also have, I thought this was cool. This is my P8Z77i. Is that it? P8Z77i Deluxe from Asus. Look at this board. Look at how cool this is. Look at that DigiVRM. Smoking. This is when I downsized the first build that I ever put together, which had a Core i7 2700K. Sandy Bridge, no, is that Sandy Bridge? I got this board when I decided to downsize the very first PC I ever put together, which had a Core i7 2700K Sandy Bridge CPU in it, and I used that system for quite some time until it didn't serve me anymore. It got a little slow, but yeah, look at that. Not too shabby of an I/O for such an old board, and it looks pretty sweet. I kind of miss the days when they used to make motherboards in cool colors like that instead of everything just being so monochromatic. At the same time, back in the day when most boards had a funky color to them, I would always complain that none of them were color neutral enough. So I guess the grass is always greener on the other side. But very cool board. The fact that this is so old means, you know, it's obviously long out of production. I just looked it up on eBay recently. These things are going for like well over 200 bucks still, as are some of the older boards that I have here on just like outdated chipsets and stuff that you can't really get easily unless you go on the secondhand market. So I'm probably not gonna sell it. It's too sentimental, but it's nice to know. And finally we have coolers, mostly AIOs. Actually, everything here is an AIO except for these two, and they happen to be stock coolers for Intel and AMD, but the rest are CLCs, closed loop liquid coolers. We have only one 360 rad. I was hoping to pull more 360 AIOs, but this is the only one, this Thermaltake one, which is unfortunate because I don't like this cooler. Not because it doesn't work well, but because it's got all this RGB crap. Look at how many freaking cables. If I ever use this cooler again, I will not be using the RGB. Not worth it. But the rest of the coolers are 280s and 240s. Mostly 240s. We do have a few 280s in here. And this is great because out of all the components, I was really low on AIOs. I was just running out of liquid coolers. I kept having to buy them on Amazon and stuff in a pinch for new builds, and I don't really have that problem anymore. Although there is one thing. The fact that some of these coolers are older means that they're not compatible with certain newer chipsets, or not newer chipsets, newer socket types, like LGA 1700, for example. Some of these coolers do offer a add-on bracket that you can purchase or receive separately from the manufacturer, so I'll probably look into that. But overall, I'm very happy to have all of this stuff back. Everything, it's really cool. It's really cool. What's not cool is that I now have to pack it all away, and it's probably gonna take another few hours. But after all is said and done, we should be looking at a much tidier studio for me to work in, and a lot more hardware on the shelf. All right. Studio is complete. The cleaning process is finished. It only took me a whole 10 hours from start to finish to get that all done, but it is so worth it. Look at how nice and open it looks. It actually sounds more echoey in here ever since cleaning up things. Isn't that crazy? There's like so much more echo, I can tell. But don't mind this. These are systems that I'm currently working on, projects that are in the works. But here's a super quick look at the organizational things with Intel motherboards on this side. We've got some fans, controllers, more fans. These are the overflow of power supplies that didn't have boxes. I kind of just stuck them in this corner for now. Coolers, stock coolers anyway. Stock coolers for Intel and AMD. And then what do we got? Peripherals. AMD motherboards on this side. side, and then I didn't know what to do with the AIOs that didn't have boxes. There weren't that many of them, but God, it looks horrible. How do you store an AIO? I don't know, doesn't matter. The ones that did have boxes went up there, got some power supplies, had to reorg the power supplies, so that's all nice and tidy now. We have some GPUs, and then we have memory and more memory, no, that's storage, memory, storage, CPUs, AMD and Intel. So there you go. That's, oh, and then the cases. The case situation actually worked out pretty well. You can see that I didn't have to stack it too much higher because I put most of the cases over here in the kitchen. And time will tell if this was a horrible idea or not, because they are stacked kind of high here. It doesn't look like it's the most, well, it's not bad. It's not wobbling all that much. We do have a lot of earthquakes in California though, so fingers crossed. I did put like 6 or 7 of the cases in the other room. I'm gonna take those home so I can just donate them later, because they're not crappy enough to throw away, but they're also not good enough for me to want to keep. So I'm just gonna donate them. But that's it. It feels so good in here. Thank you guys for watching this random cleaning video. I know some of you guys aren't into that sort of thing, but it really needed to be done. And now that it is, I can work in here a lot more easily when producing videos moving forward. So very excited with how everything turned out. Feels good. Good old spring cleaning. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe to the channel for more tech stuff coming at you really soon. Toss a like on the video if you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in the next one.